Awesome, bloom and gloom. So what happens is pretty interesting. So remember, the CMC, they really want to get their cutie marks, right? And so Apple Bloom, she starts to kind of have like nightmares about, well, what would happen, if I didn't get my cutie mark? What would happen if, the world ended and I didn't have anything? And this is a little bit of a problem. We're going to see how it progresses in just a moment. And it's an issue because she's focusing on the negative, right? She's asking herself, what's the worst thing that could happen? What could, be terrible? And how it has to work out? And you just don't want to focus on negativity. And it sucks because, she dreams about these bad circumstances. She dreams about what the worst things that could happen. She dreams about, why she doesn't have her cutie mark and all this negative things. And it sucks because, what you dream about is usually what's embedded in your subconscious. And so for her, her subconscious is surrounded with despair and with fear and with question and with doubt that she'll be successful, right? And you don't want to have that. And so remember that your dreams are a really, really good indication of what's going on in your subconscious mind, which is the most powerful state and the most powerful indicator of your overall mental health, right? And you want to remember, it's always positive, right? You always got to stay positive. You want to eradicate that negativity, which is the whole goal. And so as she goes through these circumstances, she's like, well, what would happen? What would happen? Remember, everyone in her family has an Apple cutie mark, right? And so she's thinking well, what would it be for me? What would I do? Because she doesn't do a whole lot with apples, right? And so she's thinking, she has all these experiences she goes through, and all these little tests, these things that she thinks might happen, and she has this idea that maybe, she could be like a pest pony, right? And go and kill all these bugs, and then she has this vision of all these bugs that she's gonna kill as a pest pony, and she realizes that she doesn't really want to do that for the rest of her life. It's not really her thing. It's not what she's passionate about. And so because of that, she goes back, she keeps dreaming over and over and over again about all these negative things that she could be doing, that she might have to do for the rest of her life if she doesn't get her cutie mark. She's freaking out about not knowing what's up, and she just cares way too much about getting her cutie mark and figuring out what her life purposes, which sucks for her because it distracts her from what really matters, which is herself, and then it absolutely crushes her ability to stay focused on her friends, focused on the CMC, which is what she's really cares about and what actually matters the most for her. So Luna, she is in everybody's dreams, remember? So she sees this going on, and she's trying to help out. She doesn't know really what to tell these guys because it's a tough situation, right? She's got all these deep-rooted fears, these things she doesn't want to happen. She's super scared that the Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo are going to kick her out if she gets her cutie mark. They kick her out of the CMC and disband her and stop being friends with her because she gets her cutie mark and has to go do Apple things and go work on the farm and stuff like that. And she's so distraught because she's surrounding every single thought she has with fear and negativity instead of positivity. She's trapped away all her positive thoughts in this faraway place in her mind, and it's just ignoring them, which is awful, awful, awful. And so you all learned here, right, is to just crush this negative energy. And so that's what Luna tries to do. So Luna comes in to the CMC in the little clubhouse and says, hey guys, you guys gotta stop freaking out a little bit. Apple Bloom, she is super scared that she's gonna get her cutie mark and everyone's gonna hate her and the world's gonna change and nothing will ever be the same. And it just sounds so ridiculous as Luna says it. Yet she's got to go through this process over and over and over again because to her it's difficult, and to her this is one of the biggest challenges that she's faced in her life for so long. Remember, her huge goal is to get this cutie mark. She cares so much about it that she's feeding up and tangling all aspects of her life in this one thing, and she's on the path, right? And that's the way to achieve. But you gotta care, but not that much. And so she comes together with her friends and with Princess Luna, and they really try to address these anxieties. And they say, look, you got to chill out. You got to focus over here on the happiness. Focus on the positivity. Don't really worry about the stuff that you don't have control over. Only worry about what you can control. Only worry about what you can do today, what you can do now to have the success that you desire. Because in all reality, a cutie mark won't change you. This is a concept that she has never embraced before, never even thought about. This idea that like she is who she is, and that her talents will emerge over time based on who she becomes over time. For all of them, right? And it's so important that they work instead on developing like bonds between each other rather than thinking more so about this physical expression of their internal talents, which is, it sucks. And so no matter what happens to them, no matter what they get, right, they're still going to be themselves. They're still going to be friends. They're still going to be their group, and they're still going to have this like same mastermind they've been growing up with for years and years and years and years. And that alone, that foundation is what they're going to build everything on. It's what they're going to build their whole futures on, and hopefully, grow and grow and grow from that to succeed and have massive levels of impact, not because of some cutie mark, not because of this physical representation that, like, in all reality will not change them, but instead it's because of who they are. They've been working and working and working so long over this extended period of time to go and go and go and go and develop themselves and develop their personalities. And they've gone up and down and up and down, right? They've gone through the downs, they've gone through the ups, they've gone through the downs. As a group, they've done this. This is the exact idea behind principles, right? This idea that their team is moving, their team is growing, and everyone succeeds as a unit, wholly identified and in sync with each other. And that's really like exactly what they're trying to do here, is kind of expose this and work towards a better future where they're able to more consistently, over and over and over again, connect with one another, so that they're focusing, rather on like these cutie marks or on these, actions or acts or these deeds that they're doing. Instead, they're focusing on each other. They're focusing on who they are and who they shall become because of their relationships, because of their connections, not necessarily just because of the craft that they do, because that's not as important as them actually being with each other. Remember, we talked about this earlier, this idea that you can go up this loop, but the loop will, or the progress chain will always increase as long as you're doing it with friends, as long as you're doing it with your mastermind, and you're strengthening those relationships over time by focusing on a collective movement instead of just one person doing something, right? It's this idea that it is so much better to have work done as a team than it is to have anything done individually, because it develops so much more than just the result, and it gets so much more than just overcoming the faults. But instead, you have everyone growing together. And so this connected social movement develops that mastermind, develops that third brain in the ether. And all of a sudden, it creates such an insanely powerful internal ideology that you can overcome anything you desire and have total and complete positivity and control over all aspects of your life, which is so powerful, so awesome. And that's really what you see here in this part. So there you go. Awesome. Thanks for the memories. So Tank is what Rainbow Dash, that's what she names her turtle from You May the Best Pet Win, right? And so unfortunately, turtles hibernate, and Rainbow Dash did not know that. So she spends like the first quarter of this episode figuring out what hibernation is from Fluttershy and learning that this guy because the turtle, he's been getting super tired, right? And so because he's been getting really tired, he's got to go and hibernate for winter. I didn't know turtles hibernate. That's freaking weird. So she talks to Fluttershy, says, "Hey, what's going on? Why does this guy want to go fall asleep all the time?" So she figures it out, and then she spends the next week or so trying to figure out everything she can figure out about hibernating by reading a ton of books and by consulting outside references and resources and guides and all that good stuff. And she realizes it originally that it's mostly based on weather, right? So the seasons change and it starts to snow, it starts to become winter, and the animals, they hibernate. And so she thinks, okay, well, if the snow and the winter causes Tank to hibernate, then if she can just get rid of the snow and get rid of winter, then she should be able to have, fun time with her pet, and he just won't go to bed. He won't hibernate. And that's kind of her strategy going into this episode, which is a little bit ridiculous and kind of crazy. But, it's the idea that, you can only do what you know. And she only knows so much about hibernation. And so she thinks and she really, really, really wants to be able to control what goes on here, and what happens to her pet, and what happens to Tank, especially as the seasons start to change. She wants to stay with him, and so she goes out, and she says, "Okay, well, how can we stop winter?" And the first thing she does is she goes to Cloudsdale, where they make all the weather, right? She goes to the weather factory, and just starts sabotaging everything she can find, and destroying machines and messing up clouds, screwing up the production line, just causing a ton of chaos and damage and problems to everyone there, and creating a huge mess. And what it does originally, right, is basically she breaks the factory by tinkering with all the machines and all the conveyor belts, all the assembly lines, all the processes, everything that should be working is basically just destroyed, which kind of sucks. And for everyone there, they're pretty pissed, but they don't really know what's going on. They just think it's an issue, and so Rainbow Dash, she just kind of flies away scot-free and gets out of there. And so I want you to look at this idea of what she just did. She decided that her time with her pet was more important than literally every single person on the planet having winter. She put her priorities over every other person on the planet so that she could have a short-term gain of spending time with her pet, while everybody else got pissed as heck and lost tons of valuable resources, time, energy, manufacturing, everything was destroyed just so that she could have this little burst of fun with a huge long-term negative impact on the environment, on every other being on the planet, and of course on the people who have to fix this huge factory now. And it just crushes all those other people before their short-term gains. So you want to make sure when you go into new situations, and especially if you're facing a challenge, ask yourself, is the solution that you're using to get a short-term benefit something that's going to have a major long-term cost that could absolutely crush all other aspects of your life? Because if that is true, and if that happens, then you're going to have a serious issue with essentially taking this and blowing it up, right? So this idea that these negative impacts, these negative consequences from this meddling and from what she's doing are fundamentally crushing winter for everybody else. And so because of that, she needs to find a better way, and she can't just take over the world. It's just not feasible. It doesn't make sense. It's not reasonable for her. And so because of that, she has to step up. She has to grow up. She has to look at this from a higher level and say, what's really going on here? What's actually getting done? And so as she does that, as she moves on, what's interesting is at the beginning she's a little confused. She doesn't really know what's going on. And so, they fix this, and this all goes away, and they take care of it. And the weather starts working up again. And, even though it's still sunny outside, the problem with Rainbow Dash is she goes out into the forest with Tank, and he's still, ridiculously tired, right? He's just super pooped out. And so she's, sitting with him. She realizes as she's holding him that, there's nothing she can do to control him as an outside force. She can't force a change in his biology because he and he alone controls his internal movements, his internal desires, his internal strives, and most importantly, he controls himself. And as his own being, he needs to go and hibernate so that he can survive and thrive and rest and restore whatever has to happen, right? It's all him, and there's not a wall of external force or pushing that could get him to stop this, because there's just an internal motive for him to do what needs to be done, which is to go and to hibernate. And so often, right, you see this focus on, what can we do to force people to do things? What can we do to push people to do things? What can we do to make, people work faster, people work harder, people do better? When in reality, you need to really enter that drop of honey, right? and get them to want to do it. And so for him, that drop of honey is the rest and restore sense of self that he's going to get after this hibernation. And that natural drop of honey is worth so much more than all these external pressures and all the love in the world from Rainbow Dash. It's just not enough to overcome his internal drive. And so often we ask people, how can we get them to work better on a project? How can we get better collaboration, better teamwork, better output, better workforces? The single strongest way to do that is to give people this drop of honey. Get rid of the crap. Get rid of the background. Doesn't matter. Give them a strong internal reason. Give yourself a strong reason every single morning to jump out of bed. Ridiculously pumped. For a lot of people, this is a long-term goal statement. Think and Grow Rich, very powerful book. That'll help you build long-term goals. It's insane. As soon as you have this one internal drive that can pull you towards it, that can make you do the right thing over and over and over again, everything changes. And for this turtle, it's just, hibernation, not a big deal, right? It's okay. But it's still, you want to expand from it, right? You want to grow. And you want to understand that, even though it's not a huge thing, he was able to withstand this mountain of force that Rainbow Dash put on him when she tried to, basically destroy winter for everybody and crush the world. It didn't matter. It didn't matter for him because no matter what happened, he was still going to sleep. He was still tired and he was still done with the day. He was still done with the season. He was still done with everything around him. And he knew that he had to do what he had to do. And he stuck by that decision. He was still compassionate. You can kind of see that they're still having fun together. But he has to do his own thing and break away from the control that Rainbow Dash is trying to put on him. So remember, you got to always stay independent and stick with your principles and align yourself to your goals and priorities. Sweet. So Appaloosa's Most Wanted. This one, super, super fun. So the CMC go with Applejack. So they're starting, here in Ponyville. They're all having a great time. They get on the train. They go, wee, to Appaloosa. And they're having, the state fair, right? So at the state fair, the goal is to get everyone together. And then they just have, this huge rodeo, right? And so Brayburn, who's Applejack's cousin, is assigned basically to take care of the kids while Applejack is ready for the rodeo and everyone's going to have the best time ever. They're going to go out there and crush it and have a super great old time. So they get there and they're still kind of working on the cutie marks and trying to figure out how to help people. Kind of most importantly, they just want to have a little bit of fun. And so that's kind of exactly what they do. And so often, right, people are against this idea, fun, do what you love, do what's happy, especially as you travel, right? But for so many situations, the key to getting closer and closer and closer to your overarching long-term goal and achieving whatever it is that you desire is to just do what comes naturally, do what you think is enjoyable. For me, trading stocks is the coolest thing ever, and I would love, always do it when I have free time. And so that's super fun for me and enjoyable, and it gets me closer to that long-term goal, right? And that's exactly what we see with the Cutie Mark Crusaders. That's what they do here. So they kind of get put in this room with Brayburn. Brayburn sounds like a blue guy, I guess. And Brayburn's watching them while Applejack's going around, and they've got this huge rodeo and tons of hay barrels, animals, bulls, stuff like that. And they're getting ready for everything, and they want to win a bunch of prizes, and it's going to be the coolest thing ever, right? Slight little problem. Brayburn kind of falls asleep, and so because he falls asleep, they get bored in this one room, and so they just kind of escape out of there, walk away, and they find this forest, right? And as they got into Appaloosa and as they entered the state fair, they saw this one pony over and over and over again, engaging with all the other people. And his name was Troubleshoes. And Troubleshoes, they saw him just a couple of times earlier, and he originally knocked over a barrel, and everyone got super mad at him, and the sheriff got really mad at him and said he was gonna arrest him. And then he bumped into somebody and hit the chair and boosted him off, and it was just a big mess. And he was just little small accidental things that made him look a little clumsy, not a huge deal. But the response that he got from the sheriff, the response he got from authority, the response that came from the residents of the town, I mean, they were freaking out, right? They were like, oh my gosh, it's troubleshoes again. Can you believe this guy? They were just kind of overreacting to him, and it seemed like there was a more deep-rooted reason, a more deep-seated reason that they were upset with him, and they were projecting negativity onto him, right? They were projecting their problems. They were projecting badness. They were assuming that he was, a bad guy, mean guy, evil guy. Guy should be in jail. Guy should be out of here. And as he did that, as they over and over and over again say that he does not deserve and he's a bad guy, it starts to solidify. That idea that he's not good becomes a reality in both his own mind and the mind of the CMC, who have literally never even met him before. Which is a shame, right? Because the projections of others should never, never, never turn into your reality of yourself. Remember so long ago when I had no friends, you hear ton of people say things about you, and you have to remember, it does not matter what others think. You need to stick to your core and stick to your beliefs and stick to your principles and be your true self more than any other opinion or statement or once in a flash in a pan comment could ever have an effect on you. Rather than do what I thought was socially acceptable just to please everyone. Because the only person that matters is yourself. You need to please yourself. And so they follow him into the foresty area off towards the side of town, and they go into his home, and they find his home, and it's kind of a big mess, but that's okay. And as they get to his home, he's not there yet, so they just kind of walk in, which is kind of weird, but it's cool. And they meet him, and they ask him, what's up? Why does everybody hate him? Why is he this villain guy? And he says he doesn't try to be mean, right? He's just unlucky. And as he was growing up, he was always try to enter the rodeo and be like everybody else. But the problem was he would make these accidental mistakes. He'd make these silly jokes. It was like an accident. He would fall over barrels. He would trip. He would spin around, and he would just be a little bit clumsy, right? And so because of that, everybody laughed at him, and he took it really, really harshly, right? He was super saddened by it because he thought that everyone was being negative and upset. They upset him, right? Because everybody was laughing at him. At least that's how he perceived it. Not for a moment did he step back and think maybe they could be laughing with him. Maybe they could be laughing together. Maybe he could be like a clown or something. He took it negatively because he perceived it as negatively. This is why it's so important that when you take in new experiences, you put them through a positive filter that takes in positivity and filters out the negativity and makes it so that everything you see is good and great and awesome. And it boosts you up instead of dragging you down. So he goes through that, and they go through that process. And the CMCs say, well, look at his cutie mark, right? It's like a horseshoe, right? And he's like, oh, it's unlucky, I'm unlucky, blah, blah, blah. And they say, no, why don't we put a new perspective on it? Why don't we think about that with a new spin? Let's take you back to the rodeo, and instead of being, bad or unlucky or a not good guy, why don't we make you the star of the show? And so that's exactly what they do. They say, hey, you know what? You can be the clown. You can be the rodeo clown. And you can make everybody happy. And so he gets out there in front of everyone, and everyone initially hates him, but he gets out there and does his thing and has a great time just making everybody laugh. And takes the laughter positively, takes it as a sign that he's a great, doing awesome job. And as that goes by, all of a sudden, he starts to fit in. He starts to realize that he doesn't have to be evil. He doesn't have to be alone. He doesn't have to be desolate. He can instead be part of this overarching social movement and stick with others so that he can get a ridiculously great career in laughter and entertainment with others. He doesn't have to be all alone as a villain. And everyone forgives, his whole past, and they feel bad about judging him. And he realizes that, during his childhood when he was getting laughed at, it was a good laugh, not a bad laugh. And he just had to twist the way he perceived it a little bit so that he could have really the best output for his entire freaking life. And just have total and complete happiness, joy, and success as he moves in with others and he connects with them socially so that he starts to build up those relationships for the first time really in his whole life, which is just so powerful. And he goes from the most wanted criminal ever to a happy, cheerful rodeo clown. Awesome. The safety valve in handling complaints. It all comes down to one word, and it's friendly. And it's this idea that you walk through a store, or you call a support line, or you mess something up, and you ask for help. Now, the last thing you want, like in a negative situation, especially if you're having like a problem, or you're struggling, you're trying to figure something out, trying to fix it, is someone who is negative, right? You don't want someone that's going to push you away. And so what you do need is happiness. You need friendliness. You need a genuine connection of someone who like legitimately wants to be there helping you, standing there with you. Because as soon as you have that, all of a sudden, everything changes. When you can create a friendly connection with people that you work with and the people that you interact with, and do things with them in a friendly way. Like they are your friends. They are the people that deserve to be with you, and you want to be with them. If you exuberate this idea that like everyone you meet is your friend, all of a sudden they'll start to act accordingly. They will act as if they are your friend and do connect with you because they want to fulfill that prophecy. They want to do that with you. They want to go through this journey with you of total and complete friendship because everybody loves being friendly. And it just takes that first step a lot of times on your part to just start, right? And just start being friendly and start doing the right thing, being nice, being happy, and making that connection at a very, very intimate level with others so that they can stand beside you, not against you. So start out with step number one, right? And that is being friendly. And, a great way to start with that is be, smile, right? And be cheerful, be positive. And of course, remember names. And as soon as you can do all that, you start to increase your friendliness. You're going to increase the amount of friends that you attract in your life, and subsequently, fundamentally shift the way that you're perceived, right? The way that people talk to you. Just like with Trouble Shoes, his problem was no one was friendly to him. And the instant someone was friendly to him, and he was friendly to them, they realized that he was so much more than a criminal, so much more than that bad apple. And it allowed him to go out there and have massive impact and massive success in his life that would otherwise be completely ignored and just not existent whatsoever if there wasn't friendliness. So be friendly.